The rise and fall of Route 66, how America's most iconic road was forgotten. For nearly a century, Route 66 has been America's legendary highway, full of quirky roadside stops, neon signs, and memories that refuse to fade. But this mother road isn't what it used to be. Ever wondered how Route 66 rose to fame and then faded into history? Today, let's hit the road to uncover the real story behind its rise and fall. Dawn of a legend. The birth of an icon. Before the bright dawn of Route 66, the United States experienced a dynamic period shaped by a relentless desire for exploration and development. Starting in the early 1800s, the pioneer spirit drove Americans westward, crossing rough, arduous trails in search of fertile land and abundant resources. They traveled primarily by horse and wagon, a slow but resilient journey that gradually opened up the nation's first transportation corridors. These very journeys laid the groundwork for future routes. However, real growth boomed with the advent of the railroad. Railroad lines were built parallel to the old trails, forming a vital network that further boosted migration and commercial development across the continent. Railroads became the primary means of freight and passenger transport for decades, connecting distant lands and creating a unified national economy. But then, by the end of the first decade of the 20th century, a new mode of transport emerged that completely changed the transportation landscape and reshaped the American way of life: the automobile. This wasn't just a vehicle, it was a true revolution. In 1910, there were only about 180,000 cars in the entire US, but just a decade later, this number exploded to 17 million by 1920. This rapid increase created an enormous demand for a cohesive, well-built national highway network. Cars offered a flexibility that trains couldn't match. They profoundly changed how people lived, worked, and even their view of the world around them. People could freely explore, conduct business, and connect in completely new ways, moving beyond fixed rail lines. Against this backdrop, a bold idea arose in Oklahoma in the mid-1920s to build a transcontinental highway. The goal was to link the burgeoning state of Oklahoma with two of America's largest and most important cities at the time: Chicago in the east and Los Angeles in the west. The person credited with creating the identity and shaping this legendary road was Cyrus S. Avery, a talented and visionary businessman from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Avery wasn't just a successful entrepreneur, he was also the chairman of the State Highway Commission and played a pivotal role in planning the national numbered highway system. His vision extended beyond just connecting cities. It was about creating an efficient road system that served the development of the entire country. Initially, Avery wanted the road to be named US 60, a number evoking speed and directness, but this name was already in use by another highway. Finally, after much consideration and negotiation, the road was officially named Route 66 in 1926, a simple name that went down in history and became a symbol of a new era of road travel. Avery didn't stop there. With passion and foresight, he established the US 66 Highway Association to promote and protect the road. It was he who proudly nicknamed the road Main Street of America, a name that truly reflected its central role in people's lives. Thanks to his extraordinary and tireless efforts, along with his like-minded colleagues, Cyrus Avery was dubbed the father of Route 66. Under his steadfast leadership, the entire highway was paved by the late 1930s, an astounding achievement at the time when large-scale road construction still faced significant technical and financial challenges. Route 66 was an engineering marvel and a symbol of progress, shortening the distance between Chicago and Los Angeles by over 200 miles, providing immense benefits to thousands of drivers, saving considerable time and travel costs. The unique architecture and social impact of Route 66 also played a crucial role in making it a legend. Unlike many modern highways with straight, high-speed designs, Route 66 wound and zigzagged through the Midwest, vast plains, and American Southwest on its final journey to Santa Monica, California. This route was cleverly designed to connect hundreds of communities, primarily small towns and rural areas, with major cities. This brought enormous economic benefits, especially for agriculture, making it much easier for farmers to transport and distribute produce to large markets, thereby stimulating local economic growth. Its passage through relatively flat terrain with favorable weather was also a significant factor, making road construction and maintenance easier. Additionally, Route 66 became a crucial lifeline for long-haul transportation, a direct and strong competitor to rail transport in the 1930s. In particular, its southern route held great appeal for the trucking industry due to its much milder climate and avoidance of the dangerous high passes in the Rocky Mountains. This ensured that Route 66 could remain open and operational even in winter, an extremely important advantage over other routes often covered in snow or ice, impeding traffic. This difference helped Route 66 become the preferred choice for many cargo and passenger trips, solidifying its position as a backbone of the American transportation system. The nation's lifeline, far-reaching impact. Route 66 was a symbol of hope and resilience during one of the most difficult periods in American history. In the 1930s, the U.S. was plunged into the devastating Great Depression, and simultaneously, the Dust Bowl region, in Midwestern states like Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas, suffered from horrific dust storms and prolonged droughts. The Dust Bowl phenomenon wasn't just due to natural drought, but also ineffective farming techniques, particularly deep and continuous plowing without protective measures, which eroded agricultural land, making it barren and easily swept away into giant dust clouds. These dust storms could last for hours, even days, turning daytime into dark night and covering everything in fine dust. As a result, thousands of farm families had to abandon farms that had been in their families for generations, facing poverty, unemployment, and despair. They lost everything, from homes and land to livelihoods, and had no choice but to seek a new future. In their search for a better life, especially jobs and the promised lands in California, over 200,000 people from the Dust Bowl region poured westward on Route 66. This was not just a simple migration, it was a journey of hope, where every mile held the aspiration for a brighter future. They loaded their remaining belongings onto dilapidated cars, along with their children and dreams, trudging through every town along this road, facing fatigue, illness, and sometimes the indifference of local residents. This great migration was immortalized by Nobel Prize-winning author John Steinbeck in his classic novel, The Grapes of Wrath, in 1939. In this work, Steinbeck called Route 66 an emotional and meaningful name, Mother Road. The book vividly and tragically depicted the lives of the Joad family, landless farmers forced to leave Oklahoma to seek a new life in California. They faced countless difficulties, from harsh weather and discrimination to deep internal conflicts. The book, along with its 1940 film adaptation, etched Route 66 into the collective memory of Americans, transforming it into a timeless symbol, not just of a road, but of struggle, resilience, and hope. It's worth noting that this massive influx of migrants, though stemming from dire circumstances, helped many small independent businesses, mom and pop companies, along Route 66 survive and thrive through the Great Depression. They provided food, fuel, and lodging for the migrants, creating a unique roadside economic ecosystem. The increasing traffic on Route 66 led to a pressing need for facilities like food, fuel, auto repair, and lodging. This completely transformed the economies of the small towns that Route 66 passed through. From peaceful villages, they suddenly became bustling centers with vibrant commercial activity. The rapid growth of tourism spurred the emergence of numerous motels, souvenir shops, gas stations, and especially unique roadside attractions, often referred to as kitsch. The bright, distinctive architecture and signs created a unique hallmark for Route 66, inviting travelers to stop and explore. Teepee motels, diner restaurants with retro styles, and giant billboards became an indispensable part of the Route 66 experience. Route 66 truly became a microcosm of American cultures, intimately connected by the popularity of the automobile. It was a crossroads of many cultures, from the Midwest to the Southwest, each with its own distinct flavor. However, not everyone had pleasant experiences on this road. During the dark era of racial segregation, African Americans faced discrimination and were barred from many motels, restaurants, and businesses along Route 66. They often had to search for safe places to stop, a challenging struggle. In fact, many places still had sundown towns, where black people were forbidden or unwelcome after dark. If found in these towns after sunset, they could face violence or expulsion by the police. To address this injustice and help African Americans travel more safely, Victor H. Green published The Green Book, 1936 to 1966. This was an incredibly important travel guide, updated annually, listing detailed African American friendly locations, including lodging, restaurants, gas stations, and other services they could use without fear of discrimination. This book became an essential companion for countless African American families on their long road trips, providing peace of mind and greater freedom of movement in a society still rife with injustice. The golden age after World War II brought Route 66 to the peak of its popularity. Throughout World War II, Route 66 served as a crucial military transportation corridor where troops and supplies were moved quickly and efficiently from east to west, and vice versa. It played an essential role in supporting the nation's war efforts. After the war, with an economic boom, a sense of relief, and a large number of veterans returning home, car registrations soared unprecedentedly. America entered the American Dream era with an explosion in the auto and tourism industries. Millions of American families streamed westward on Route 66, no longer burdened by the Dust Bowl or the Great Depression, but heading to famous and promising tourist destinations like the majestic Grand Canyon or the magical Disneyland. These trips became symbols of freedom, optimism, and exploration. The gloomy, suffering image of the Grapes of Wrath gradually faded from public memory. Instead, a spirit of optimism and adventure took over, clearly expressed in Bobby Troupe's famous song, Route 66, in 1947. This song quickly became a hit and was later recorded by many renowned artists, including Nat King Cole, Chuck Berry, and even the legendary rock band The Rolling Stones. The melody and lyrics of the song conveyed the joy and freedom of trips on Route 66, making it a pop culture icon. By the 1960s, the Route 66 television series further solidified its status, turning it into a highway that was not just a road, but an emotional path where life stories were written and new adventures discovered. Even in recent years, Route 66 has appeared in films like RV, and especially the hit animated movie Cars, 2006, by Disney Pixar, helping today's younger generation also feel its allure and legacy. Do you remember any childhood road trip memories? Share them in the comments below. A Legend's Twilight, The Decline. Ironically, its popularity and increasing traffic congestion were the direct causes of Route 66's decline. With massive vehicle volumes, a two-lane road like Route 66, with many direct access points from towns and roadside businesses, could no longer meet the transportation and tourism demands of a rapidly developing nation. traffic accidents increased, travel times lengthened, and freight transportation efficiency decreased. In 1956, a new vision emerged under the leadership of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower was a brilliant general in World War II, and his experience shaped the idea of the modern federal highway system. In 1919, as a young major, he participated in a transcontinental automobile trip across the U.S. The 62-day journey on muddy, unpaved, and frequently interrupted roads clearly showed him the inefficiency of the American road system at the time and the importance of building a better road network for military and civilian purposes. Later, during World War II, witnessing the superior military advantage of Germany's Autobahn system, a network of high-speed highways designed for efficient military and civilian transport, Eisenhower became even more convinced that the U.S. needed a similar system to ensure security and promote economic development. He realized that a powerful nation needed a modern transportation network to move troops, weapons, and civilians quickly in any situation. Therefore, in 1956, President Eisenhower supported and passed legislation to build a 4-lane, high-speed, limited-access highway system, today's interstate highway system. This system was designed to overcome the limitations of older roads like Route 66 with very diverse and strategic goals. Safety. The modern design of interstate highways with wide lanes, clear medians, and fewer direct intersections significantly reduced traffic accidents compared to older roads. Efficiency. Allowing faster, uninterrupted travel, free from intersections or traffic lights in towns, saved time and costs for both people and the transportation industry. Trucks could transport goods over long distances much more efficiently. National security. This road system was considered extremely important for moving troops and supplies in emergencies, as well as meeting the need for rapid civilian evacuation in the event of a nuclear attack, a major concern during the Cold War. Long, straight sections could even be used as backup runways for military aircraft. Reflection of American economic power. A modern, advanced highway network was seen as a symbol of America's prosperity, industrial strength, and organizational capability on the international stage. It was a statement about the nation's superpower status. The construction of this colossal and modern federal highway system increasingly made older roads like Route 66 obsolete. Over the next 3 decades, 5 new interstate routes, I-55, I-44, I-40, I-15, and I-10, gradually replaced sections of US 66 entirely. These roads often ran parallel to Route 66, but bypassed the small towns where Route 66 had once been the economic lifeline. By 1970, modern highways had covered almost all sections of Route 66, causing it to lose its role as a national artery and become a forgotten road in many areas. The official end of Route 66 occurred in 1984, when the last segment of US 66 in Arizona was replaced by I-40. This led to a historic decision. Route 66 officially ceased operation on June 27, 1985, after 59 years of service. The American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials canceled its certification and voted to remove all its signs, marking the end of an era and the transformation of the American transportation system. Although this decision was technically and economically logical, it left a big void in the hearts of those who loved and were connected to the Mother Road. In your opinion, should an iconic road like Route 66 have been replaced by modern highways? Vote yes, no, and let us know your thoughts. An undying legacy, life after death. Although decommissioned and no longer an official federal highway, Route 66 hasn't truly died. In fact, an astonishing 85% of Route 66 sections can still be used by drivers today, becoming local or state roads under different names. This road has undergone an incredible transformation, from a primary transport highway to a nostalgic tourist destination, attracting visitors from all over the world. Travelers come to Route 66 not just to drive, but to relive a piece of American history. Immediately after Route 66 officially ceased operations, a strong wave of preservation and revival emerged. Public and private organizations, along with Route 66 enthusiasts, quickly began campaigns to preserve and commemorate this legendary road. They lobbied to restore historical signs, maintain old sections, and promote its cultural value. Their efforts paid off. In 1990, the U.S. Congress passed the Route 66 Corridor Preservation Act, a significant law that officially recognized it as a symbol of the American people's heritage and their search for a better life. This was not just recognition, it was an affirmation of Route 66's enduring cultural and historical value, ensuring that its story would be passed down to future generations. Exploring Route 66 today is a journey full of surprises and delights, where you can find unique and quirky attractions that are hard to find anywhere else. These aren't just ordinary tourist spots. They are pieces of old America's history, art, and eccentricity, each telling its own story. The Muffler Man in Atlanta, Illinois. This is a classic example of kitsch roadside art, a form of folk art that's entertaining, often oversized and humorous, created to grab the attention of passers-by. Originally, these giant statues, often over 20 feet tall, were used to advertise tires, mufflers, or auto repair services. Now, they are iconic stops, taking travelers back to the golden age of road travel and creative advertising. The world's second largest rocking chair in Fanning, Missouri, this peculiar monument stands 42 feet tall and has rocking chair legs weighing 2,000 pounds each. It's not just a Guinness World Record, it's one of the most unique photo ops on Route 66, demonstrating American creativity and sometimes madness in creating roadside attractions to entice tourists and bring joy. Cadillac Ranch in Amarillo, Texas. This is one of the most famous art installations along Route 66, created in 1974 by an art group called Ant Farm. 10 classic Cadillacs from the years 1949 to 1963 are buried nose down in the ground, facing west, representing Cadillac's evolution through the eras and serving as a commentary on American car culture. The special thing about Cadillac Ranch is that visitors are encouraged to spray paint graffiti onto the cars, turning them into an ever-changing community artwork, reflecting the boundless creativity of those who visit. Each time you visit, you'll see a different version of this artwork. The Whale of Catoosa in Catoosa, Oklahoma, a whimsical lakeside structure that has become a beloved local icon. Originally built by Hugh S. Davis in the 1970s as a surprise for his whale-loving wife, this structure quickly became a popular swimming and fishing spot. After Davis passed away, the structure fell into severe disrepair. But thanks to the love and tireless efforts of the local community, especially Davis's son-in-law, it was restored, becoming a lovely and meaningful stop, showcasing the strong community spirit of the people along Route 66. And you might even encounter wild burros in Arizona. These burros, descendants of those used by miners and early settlers, are not afraid of people and often roam freely in towns like Oatman. However, you need to be careful when interacting with them, only feeding them approved food and keeping a safe distance. They are part of the unique ecosystem and landscape of the American Southwest, offering an authentic Wild West experience. Vintage motels like the Wigwam Motel in Arizona still retain their retro 50s-60s style with vibrant neon lights and teepee-shaped rooms. Staying here isn't just a place to sleep, it's a time travel experience, feeling the atmosphere of old road trips with classic cars parked outside and magical neon glow. A journey along Route 66 wouldn't be complete without savoring the old flavors on the Mother Road, you'll have a wonderful opportunity to enjoy classic American cuisine at diner restaurants with characteristic red and white interiors, padded leather booths, and shiny long bars. Try a crispy grilled cheeseburger with fresh beef, a thick, cool milkshake with rich whipped cream, a fragrant baked apple pie with a crispy crust and sweet apple filling, or authentic Texas BBQ with its distinct smoky flavor. These culinary experiences are not just meals, but the soul of the journey, where you truly feel old America, where stories are told, memories are made, and the spirit of the road lives on in every dish, every drink. If you had the chance to drive Route 66 today, which attraction or food experience would you want to stop at most? Let us know in the comments. Route 66 has experienced a journey full of ups and downs, from a crucial lifeline to its decommissioning. However, it still lives on in the hearts of Americans as a cultural symbol, heritage, and spirit of adventure. Though no longer a main highway, the Mother Road is still an invitation to the past, a worthwhile nostalgic trip. The rise and sad decline of Western Auto, the full story. Do you remember that distinctive smell of new tires and motor oil when you walked into a Western Auto store? For many of us, it wasn't just any store. It was part of our everyday lives. Whether you stopped by for car parts or maybe a new appliance for the house, Western Auto seemed to have everything. From its humble beginnings in 1909 as a mail-order business to becoming a familiar spot in the neighborhood, Western Auto shaped how Americans shopped for decades. In this trip down memory lane, we'll revisit Western Auto's golden age, the birth of legendary products like the iconic Western Flyer bicycle, and figure out what eventually led to its sad decline as massive big-box stores started popping up and taking over the market. This is the story of an American retail icon that once ruled the scene, and the reasons, some well-known and others less so, that caused it to slowly disappear. Humble beginnings, from $5 to a big idea. Every great story has to start somewhere, and Western Auto is no different. The journey of this retail giant kicked off in 1909. Our main character is George Pepperdine, a forward-thinking businessman from Kansas City, Missouri. At that time, the U.S. auto industry was booming. Cars were getting more popular, but car owners, especially those out in the country, had a tough time finding replacement parts and accessories. Pepperdine saw a massive opportunity in this. With just a meager $5 in his pocket, which was a tiny amount even back in 1909, he launched a small business. It was a mail-order company focused on getting affordable car parts straight to customers' doors. This innovative approach was absolutely vital in the early days of the auto industry. Just imagine living way out in the country, your only car breaks down, and finding parts feels almost impossible. Pepperdine's Western Auto became a real lifeline for car owners all over the nation. Pepperdine's first catalog was pretty modest, just a few pages long. It listed things like tire patch kits, spark plugs, and parts specifically for the Ford Model T, which was the most popular car in America back then. But his business took off fast. It wasn't just because of the products, but also thanks to Pepperdine's hands-on way of doing things. An interesting tidbit many might not know is that Pepperdine personally handled customer letters and made sure orders were filled efficiently. This dedication to detail and commitment to making customers happy built trust and loyalty, which were incredibly important for success when mail-order businesses were still trying to gain widespread acceptance. And here's another cool fact, something maybe few people realize. Western Auto played a big part in the rise of the do-it-yourself, DIY movement in America. Before it was common practice to just go to a store and buy tools to fix your car yourself, Western Auto empowered regular folks to maintain and repair their own vehicles. This gave Americans, especially in remote spots, a sense of independence and control over their cars, which were quickly becoming central to daily life. The Golden Age, Icons and Growth. By the 1950s and 1960s, Western Auto was absolutely at its peak. This was the company's golden age, solidifying its place as a retail giant and a beloved destination in American communities. This era was the high point of the company's influence, with its product offerings and reputation reaching new levels. Western Auto wasn't just the spot for car parts. It had become a reliable place for a huge variety of household goods and recreational items, cementing its status as one of the most versatile retailers of its time. One of the most iconic products to come out of Western Auto's golden age was the Western Flyer bicycle. First hitting the scene in the 1930s, the Western Flyer quickly became a symbol of childhood for generations of American kids. It was known for its unique look, sturdy build, and affordable price tag, making it a popular choice for American families. Many kids growing up in the 1940s and 1950s probably have great memories of riding their Western Flyer bikes. These bikes were sold only at Western Auto stores. This loyalty to the brand wasn't just about bikes. Customers trusted Western Auto to deliver quality and value in everything from radios to refrigerators. In the 1950s and 1960s, Western Auto was truly hitting its stride. It wasn't just a place for car buffs or people who like to fix their own cars. It was a store that served the entire family. You could pop in for a car battery and walk out with a new bike for your child, or a toolkit for around the house. This move into diverse product lines was one of the main reasons Western Auto became such a cherished part of the American retail landscape during its golden age. Besides the Western Flyer, Western Auto developed a whole line of private label products under the Wizard brand. This line included all sorts of things, from car batteries to home appliances like refrigerators, lawnmowers, and even TVs. Wizard products were advertised as dependable yet budget-friendly alternatives to national brands. Lots of families across America relied on them for their needs around the house and for their cars. Being able to offer exclusive in-house brands gave Western Auto a leg up on other retailers, making their stores a one-stop shop for everything from car maintenance to fixing things up at home. Western Auto's growth during this time wasn't just limited to its products. The company expanded rapidly, opening hundreds of stores nationwide. By the mid-1960s, Western Auto was present in both big cities and rural spots, with over 1,200 stores all over the country. The stores were designed to be easy to get to and were located right in the heart of towns and cities, often on Main Street or in shopping centers, making them convenient stops for families. An interesting part of how Western Auto operated during its golden age was its role as a pioneer in retail methods. The company was one of the first to use a mixed model combining mail order and physical stores. This let customers order from catalogs and either swing by the store to pick things up or have them delivered home. This multi-channel strategy was way ahead of its time, blending convenience with personal service. Western Auto also played a significant part in making motorsports popular in the 1950s and 1960s. They sponsored NASCAR teams and events, boosting their image as an expert in the automotive world. This connection to racing made the brand more appealing, especially to car lovers, and further cemented their identity as a major player in the American auto industry. Another important development during this period was the launch of Western Auto's credit plan. This plan allowed customers to finance bigger purchases like appliances and auto parts through simple monthly payments. This initiative made products accessible to many families who might not have been able to afford them otherwise, which expanded their reach and built stronger customer loyalty. Western Auto's success in its golden age wasn't just about the products and the stores. It was also about the part it played in the community. Each store was a community hub where local families could count on personal service, staff who knew their stuff, and a wide range of goods to meet their needs. This mix of national coverage and local commitment made Western Auto a trusted name across America, and its ability to keep up with consumer needs helped it thrive during this prosperous era. Stepping into retail and diversification. Just a few years after starting, in 1915, Western Auto's success allowed Pepperdine to open his first retail store right there in Kansas City. This marked the beginning of a brand new era for the company. Western Auto really started its transformation from just selling car parts to becoming a one-stop shop in the 1920s. During that decade, Western Auto grew from its simple mail-order beginnings into a booming retail chain, quickly spreading across the U.S. As more cars appeared on American roads, Western Auto's product range grew right along with them, and the company's influence got bigger. George Pepperdine quickly figured out that for the company to be truly successful, it had to offer more than just automotive parts. This strategic move turned Western Auto into a single destination. You could find not only car parts there, but also household items, tools, and recreational gear. This is the diversification that really pushed the company into its golden age. Western Auto stores became a crucial part of both small towns and big cities. Imagine walking into a Western Auto store in the 1930s or 1940s. You'd be greeted by shelves stacked high with all sorts of things, from tires and batteries to radios and sporting goods. These stores offered a level of convenience that was pretty unusual back then, letting customers find pretty much everything they needed in one spot. Western Auto was more than just a place to grab a spare tire. It was a place families could wander through, maybe pick up a bicycle, some camping equipment, or even a home appliance. Expanding their product lines made them a go-to place for a lot more than just car repairs. What do you remember most about Western Auto? We'd love to hear your stories. Attempts to adapt and the Sears acquisition. To try and fight back against these challenges, Western Auto attempted to adapt by focusing more on its automotive roots. The company started shifting its inventory to put more emphasis on car parts and repair services, even creating smaller, more specialized stores aimed directly at car lovers. While this approach helped keep some of its customers, it wasn't enough to turn around the overall drop in sales. Western Auto's broad, varied approach had worked well in the past, but by the 1980s, the retail world favored specialization and lower prices. Both things the company had a hard time achieving at the same time. One of the most significant turning points in Western Auto's decline happened in 1988, when the company was sold to Sears. At that time, Sears itself was struggling with growing competition, and buying Western Auto was supposed to make Sears' own auto division stronger. However, this merger didn't manage to revitalize either brand. Western Auto stores started losing their unique identity as they were absorbed into Sears' bigger corporate structure. And the poor management issues that were widespread at Sears during this time only sped up Western Auto's decline. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Western Auto kept losing market share to both big box retailers and specialized stores. The company, which had once been a cornerstone of American retail, found itself unable to compete with the size and efficiency of newer, more agile competitors. Despite efforts to modernize and refocus, Western Auto's golden age was truly in the rearview mirror, and the brand's presence in American towns began to disappear. As the 1980s wound down, it was clear that Western Auto's time as a retail giant was drawing to a close. The company that was once synonymous with American ingenuity and service was now struggling to keep pace in a market that was changing rapidly. Although it kept operating for a few more years, the decline couldn't be stopped, and the Western Auto that had thrived as a community anchor was soon going to become just a part of history. As the 1960s wrapped up, Western Auto had truly become an American retail icon, with a legacy built on being innovative, connecting with the community, and offering products that were part of daily life. However, as retail trends began shifting in the 1970s, new problems started popping up that would eventually lead to its decline. The 1970s and 1980s were the start of the end. As Western Auto went into the 70s, the retail scene in America began changing in ways that challenged even the most well-established brands. What had worked so brilliantly for the company in previous decades, a huge product range, customer service, and stores tied into the community, started facing tough competition from new, massive retail giants and changing customer habits. The seeds of its decline were planted during this time, as the market changed and Western Auto had trouble keeping up the pace. One of the biggest challenges Western Auto faced in the 1970s was the rise of big box retailers like Walmart and Kmart. These new competitors offered a similar variety of products, but at lower prices and in much larger stores that could hold way more inventory. Walmart, in particular, expanded like crazy during this period, and their aggressive pricing strategy undercut Western Auto on many of its main product lines. Customers were increasingly drawn to how convenient and cheap these huge retail centers were, leading to fewer people visiting Western Auto stores. At the same time, specialized auto parts stores like AutoZone and Pep Boys started appearing, focusing much more specifically on car parts and services. These stores directly targeted car enthusiasts and mechanics, offering in-depth product knowledge and a depth of inventory that Western Auto, with its broad approach, struggled to compete with. While Western Auto's strength used to be its ability to meet both car-related and general needs, this very strategy became a weak point as customers began looking for specialized stores for specific things. Another issue Western Auto ran into in the 1970s and 1980s was that it couldn't update its stores quickly enough. Even though the company had been innovative early on, by this time, many of its locations felt old-fashioned, both in how they were laid out and what products they carried. As retail technology moved forward, with computerized inventory systems and faster checkout lines becoming standard, Western Auto fell behind. This put the company at a disadvantage in terms of how efficient it was and the kind of experience it offered customers compared to newer competitors. The growth of discount stores also created a big problem. Retailers like Target and Sears expanded what they offered to include car parts, home appliances, and household goods, all things that used to be Western Auto's core business. The increased competition from bigger, more modern stores selling similar items for less money put huge pressure on Western Auto's profits. Do you have any Western Flyer or Wizard products tied to your childhood? Share your story in the comments below. The final chapter and lasting legacy. In 1998, when Sears sold Western Auto to Advance Auto Parts, that deal marked the beginning of the very last chapter for the company. Advance Auto Parts wasn't interested in keeping Western Auto's history alive. Their main goal was to take over its valuable store locations. The sale was driven primarily by considerations about real estate. As a result, a lot of Western Auto stores were either closed down or rebranded as Advance Auto Parts locations within just a few years. This essentially wiped the Western Auto brand off the American retail map. By the early 2000s, Western Auto wasn't a recognized name anymore in most American towns. Its disappearance reflected bigger shifts in the retail industry, where companies that couldn't adjust quickly enough were surpassed by competitors who were more flexible and looked ahead. In the end, Western Auto's fall wasn't just because of competition or bad management. It's the story of a company that couldn't change direction fast enough in a world that was developing at lightning speed. From failing to see changes in how customers behaved to mishandling internal operations, Western Auto's collapse serves as a cautionary tale that even the most loved and established brands can stumble when they lose focus on being innovative and adaptable. But what happened to Western Auto's famous brands? One of Western Auto's most lasting impacts was its line of private label products, which became household names during the company's golden age. The most well-known were the Western Flyer bicycle and the Wizard line of automotive and household goods. Even though Western Auto as a chain of stores might be gone, the story of these iconic brands didn't end when the doors closed. Western Flyer bicycles. The Western Flyer brand is probably the most cherished of all Western Auto's products. Introduced in the 1930s, these bicycles became a staple of American childhood in the mid-20th century, famous for their sturdy construction and affordable price. Western Flyers were treasured by generations of kids, especially in the 1950s and 1960s. After Western Auto was sold to Sears in 1988, production of Western Flyer bikes kept going for a while, as the brand still had significant recognition. However, as the company's money troubles increased in the 1990s, the Western Flyer bikes were gradually stopped being produced. By the time Advance Auto Parts bought Western Auto in 1998, the Western Flyer brand had been completely discontinued. Despite this, many vintage Western Flyer bikes are still highly sought after by collectors today, with some models going for high prices at auctions or among vintage bike enthusiasts. Besides the obvious reasons, there were also lesser-known factors behind Western Auto's downfall. While competition from big box stores and specialized auto parts shops were major contributors, several less discussed issues played a significant role in the company's ultimate end. By the 1990s, Western Auto wasn't just dealing with outside pressure. It was also facing internal issues like poor management and shifting market dynamics that sped up its collapse. One of the most overlooked reasons for Western Auto's collapse was that it didn't recognize the change in consumer behavior soon enough. The rise of the DIY, do-it-yourself, culture, which had once been a strength for Western Auto, changed significantly in the 1990s. While customers in earlier decades took pride in fixing their own cars, the increasingly complex car technologies of the 1990s made doing repairs yourself harder for the average person. As cars became more reliant on specialized parts and computer systems, fewer people were doing their own repairs, and Western Auto's appeal to the DIY market started to shrink. This shift in what customers were doing caught Western Auto off guard, because they had built a lot of their brand on empowering customers to fix things themselves. Furthermore, there was a notable problem with Western Auto's product strategy in its final years. As the company tried to shift its focus back to car parts, it phased out many of the varied household products that had made it a place for the whole family in earlier decades. However, this move alienated a large part of its customer base. Western Auto was no longer the store where families could find everything from bikes to radios to lawnmowers. Instead, it became too narrowly focused, yet it didn't have the specialization that the newer auto parts stores offered. This identity crisis left customers unsure what Western Auto was really about in the 1990s. Another factor that contributed to its decline was its failure to update its marketing and branding strategy. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Western Auto didn't significantly change how it branded itself, relying heavily on its existing reputation instead of adopting a fresh, modern look. Meanwhile, competitors like AutoZone and Pep Boys invested in aggressive ad campaigns, attractive store layouts, and built strong national brands. Western Auto, in contrast, seemed more outdated, failing to connect with younger generations of buyers. A less discussed but crucial aspect of Western Auto's collapse was its overly ambitious real estate strategy. Throughout the 1980s, the company expanded aggressively, buying more locations than it could effectively manage. In some cases, stores were opened in areas with low demand for auto parts or in regions already dominated by stronger competitors. This overexpansion led to significant underperformance. Stores in less profitable areas drained resources from more successful locations, and management struggled to maintain consistent quality and service across such a huge network. Changes in internal leadership during this period also made the company unstable. After being bought by Sears in 1988, there were several changes in leadership, and the company had trouble establishing a clear, long-term strategy. This lack of direction resulted in inconsistent decisions, with new ideas being started only to be abandoned before they could make a real difference. The constant changes at the top created confusion and lowered employee morale, contributing to the company's poor performance in its final years. A particularly interesting but little-known detail is the role of Western Auto's logistics system in its downfall. By the 1990s, efficient supply chain management was key to success in retail. Competitors like Walmart had perfected inventory control, using advanced technology to streamline operations and cut costs. Western Auto, on the other hand, had an old and inefficient logistics system. Inventory problems were a constant issue for the company. Stores either had too much stock of things that weren't selling or didn't have essential car parts, leading to unhappy customers. Without the tech infrastructure to manage its supply chain effectively, Western Auto's operating costs shot up, further hurting profits. Another factor often overlooked is the rise of the internet. While online shopping wasn't totally mainstream in the early 1990s, companies like Amazon were starting to experiment with e-commerce, and Western Auto didn't see the potential in this growing market. If the company had invested in an e-commerce platform early on, they could have possibly transitioned their catalog business into the digital age, giving customers an easy way to shop for parts and other items online. Instead, Western Auto stayed stuck in its traditional retail model, which became more and more obsolete as consumer preferences moved toward convenience and online shopping. Whizzard Products. Whizzard was Western Auto's own brand for a variety of products, ranging from car batteries to lawnmowers and home appliances. Like the Western Flyer bikes, Whizzard products were known for being affordable yet tough, and many American families trusted the brand for their needs around the house and for their cars. As Western Auto's fortunes started to fade, the Whizzard brand suffered a similar fate. The automotive side of the Whizzard line, particularly batteries and car parts, continued to be sold under Western Auto's ownership by Sears and then Advance Auto Parts. However, the household products, like Whizzard lawnmowers, appliances, and other non-car items, were phased out as the company shifted its focus back to its roots in automotive. Today, the Whizzard brand doesn't exist in the way it did during Western Auto's prime. Some of the more durable Whizzard products, especially lawnmowers and tools, can still be found on the used market, and there are groups of enthusiasts who collect and restore Whizzard items. However, as a brand, Whizzard has pretty much faded into obscurity, a victim of Western Auto's larger decline. Western Auto Associate Stores. An interesting detail about Western Auto's final years was the role of its associate stores. These were independently owned franchise locations operating under the Western Auto name, but run by local business owners. When Advance Auto Parts acquired Western Auto in 1998, many of these associate stores chose to keep operating independently, dropping the Western Auto brand, but continuing their businesses. These stores often kept most of their Western Auto-related inventory and product lines, including any remaining Western Flyer and Whizzard items, until they ran out of stock. In some cases, these independent stores are still around today, although they have different names and business models. However, they no longer have an official connection to the Western Auto brand, and most have become local auto parts stores or hardware stores, selling new stock from different suppliers. The legacy of the brands. While the Western Flyer and Whizzard brands are no longer around in their original form, their legacy lives on. Vintage Western Flyer bicycles are often restored and shown at car shows or sold to collectors, keeping a piece of mid-20th century Americana alive. Similarly, Whizzard products, especially those related to car care, have a certain sentimental value for people who remember using them during Western Auto's peak. Ultimately, The disappearance of these brands reflects what happened to Western Auto itself, a slow decline caused by changing markets and evolving consumer habits. However, for those who grew up riding a Western Flyer bike or relied on Wizard products to keep their homes and cars running, these brands remain a cherished part of American retail history. While they might not be made anymore, their impact on American culture, particularly in the middle of the 20th century, is still felt today. Western Auto might be gone, but its impact lives on in the memories of the people who used to shop there. From Western Flyer bikes to Wizard products, its legacy endures. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching other videos in this series.